Regarding how high XRP can actually go, everyone is totally mistaken. For years, people have told you that XRP will never reach $100, that it is impossible, and that $1 trillion market capitalization would be necessary. But what if I told you that XRP may be sitting on one of the largest hidden multipliers in cryptocurrency history, and that all of that is based on incorrect math? Welcome back to HelpCoin, the channel where we break through the clutter and present you with the actual data underlying the financial revolution that is almost upon us. I'm going to take you through something in today's video that will alter your perspective on XRP indefinitely. For the first time, we have actual data and analysis that clearly illustrates the amount of capital required to invest in XRP in order to achieve significant price fluctuations. Spoiler alert, it's not quite as good as you would have imagined. We're talking about modest inflows producing massive rises. And after you see this, you'll realize why XRP could not only be undervalued, one of the most asymmetrical opportunities in history, perhaps. Before we get started, please hit the like button if you are a member of the HelpCoin group. Not only does it benefit the algorithm, but since a movement is being developed here, the XRP narrative spreads over the world with each like and subscribe. And believe me, that is more important than ever. Now, let's examine the true cause of everyone's undervaluation of XRP. People have been evaluating price potential solely based on market capitalization for years. Yes, XRP cannot reach $100 because that would result in a cap of $1 trillion. But that logic presupposes that $1 coming into XRP equals $1 in market cap rise. And this market doesn't operate that way. Not even close. You see, the cryptocurrency market is far more flexible. Prices fluctuate faster in response to demand than they do in response to inflows. And that acceleration becomes even more pronounced when we examine XRP's distinct liquidity structure. The strength of the dynamic has recently been demonstrated by some intriguing evidence. It turns out that a lack of faith isn't holding back the price of XRP. Misunderstanding is preventing it. And when we remove that misperception, when you begin to see the mechanisms for what they really are, those seemingly unachievable price targets become far more attainable. Thus, we are shattering the illusion in this video. We'll examine real inflow statistics, the multiplier effect, and the implications of XRP moving from its current position to its ideal position based on basic supply and demand dynamics. You will not only comprehend XRP's potential at the conclusion of this, but you will also sense it. Let's begin by examining the figures that completely changed our understanding of XRP's potential pricing. Let's get started right now. Recently, two prominent XRP analysts, Zach Rector and Chad Steinrober, conducted an experiment that fundamentally alters our understanding of the price movement of XRP. Chad was analyzing how much money needs to flow into XRP to actually make it move on the charts. And he found something startling. A net inflow of only $4 in a single 30-minute period. 78 million caused XRP's price to drop from $2 to 5 cents. 15. 220. Just a few $1 million in inflows can result in market capitalization increase of tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. This type of outcome causes you to pause and reconsider all you've been taught about market caps and reasonable price limitations. After that, Zach Rector performed the calculations. His goal was to determine the multiplication impact, how much the market capitalization of XRP rises with each dollar that enters the system. And he came up with something amazing after calculating the numbers. From 5 to 98x market capitalization multiplier. Take a moment to consider what that means. The entire market capitalization rises by about $5,980 for every $10 invested in XRP. That isn't conjecture. That's based on observable real-world facts from live trade. It shows how easily the market cap can rise and how sensitive the price of XRP is to changes in capital flow. Of course, this figure is not fixed. Over time, the multiplier will change according on supply, liquidity, and market sentiment. However, even from a cautious perspective, this demonstrates how sharply XRP reacts to buying pressure. It's like lighting a match in a dry jungle. A tiny spark can start a massive movement. The majority of individuals believe that enormous capital inflows and billions upon billions of dollars are necessary for XRP to reach high prices. However, this information demonstrates that XRP's structure is specifically tailored for acceleration. The way liquidity is maintained, the way its ledger runs, and how the market reacts all combine to amplify even little quantities of demand. And, for that reason, XRP is utterly misunderstood by a large number of people who use conventional financial reasoning. They assume it follows the same rules as equities or commodities. However, XRP uses a significantly more effective paradigm in its construction as a bridge currency with strong liquidity mechanisms. This is the kind of discovery that makes you reconsider what price potential actually entails. Imagine what will happen when hundreds of millions of dollars begin to pour in, not from individual traders, but from institutions, funds, and eventually ETFs. If it takes less than $5 million to move XRP by a few pennies. And since those inflows are now more than just a theory, that's precisely where this narrative becomes intriguing. The gates are beginning to open. Let's now examine how that 598x multiplier works and what occurs when actual institutional funding begins to pour in. The figures may seem absurd, but they will soon make perfect sense. Since this is where things start to get crazy, let's discuss what the multiplier effect actually means in motion now that we have a better understanding of it. Zach Rector basically exposed the sensitivity of XRP's market structure when he dissected that 598x multiplier. It implies that a few $1 million in purchasing pressure causes the price to explode upward rather than just nudge. Consider this. The market value might increase by around 60 billion under the same ratio if you invested just $100 million in XRP. To be clear, most of us think that $100 million is a significant sum. However, that is pocket change for sovereign organizations, family offices, or large funds. A single mid-tier hedge fund could deploy that kind of capital without blinking. Now, multiply that by. Numerous organizations are getting ready to diversify into cryptocurrency, and all of a sudden, the numbers start to pile up quickly. For this reason, the notion that XRP will never be able to reach $1 trillion market capitalization never truly held up. Contrary to popular belief, we would only require a small portion of the $1 trillion in new funding to move via the proper channels. The ecosystem as a whole is amplified by little inputs due to XRP's efficiency and limited supply. The 598x ratio isn't magic. It simply results from supply, liquidity depth, and order book operations. Although the trading volume of XRP is dispersed among several exchanges, the liquidity that is accessible at every order level. The book is comparatively thin. There isn't a wall of sellers when new money comes in. As buyers scramble for a less supply, it identifies gaps and prices rise quickly. Imagine what would happen if institutions started contributing billions of dollars instead of millions, using the same system. The impact is still huge, even if that multiplier gradually decreases, say to 300x or even 200x. It's sufficient to push XRP into multi-trillion-dollar territory without requiring ridiculously large sums of money. At this point, the subject changes. The actual question is what would prevent XRP from reaching $100, not if it can, due to the runway's mathematical openness. Additionally, keep in mind that this is not happening in a vacuum. ETF's institutional adoption and regulatory clarification are all coming together at the same time as we enter this new era. Currently under construction is the infrastructure needed to absorb that capital and turn it into assets that are compliant. What do you think will happen if entire funds, pension portfolios, and sovereign institutions invest in XRP? After all, a few $1 million can already cause it to spike 5 cents.